going live. Okay, and I think we're live. So with that, hey everyone, welcome to Live at 5. We are here again at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. This is where you'll find us. If you are here with us, awesome. I am glad that you are here. Exciting night tonight. We are still going to have the brackets with us. Yes. We have finished up our series on how to get a job and how to keep a job. So many, hey Regina, so many good tips there. For, I said it already, getting a job and keeping a job, how to communicate in the workplace, how to build a resume, how to build your brand, so many good things. Wesley's here too. What is up, Wesley? So we are so glad the brackets are going to be helping us out again. We're starting a different series tonight though, and this one is super important. It's going to be about finances, all things finances. We're going to have a really important lesson tonight all about debit cards and credit cards. Absolutely a necessity that you know what's up with that. There's Bree. Hey, if you're going to be an independent adult, you got to know about the difference between debit and credit, and about banking in general. So this is important for all of us, me included. I've considered getting a credit card for a very long time, and I probably just need to do it. So this will be a great for me as well. But yes, just a few announcements before we get started. As you guys know, it's now May, brand new month. We are still, or that was the wrong phrasing. As you guys know, we are taking that trip in August for all of our youth who are basically able to prove that they worked 240 hours over 3 months. That's approximately 20 hours a week, which is pretty much what part-time is. So if you are working part-time, you've already heard from me today, but those of you who are trying to get a job, and sorry, I got distracted by text. Hey, Cheyenne. So those of you that are working right now, you've heard from me, or if you're trying to get a job, it's never too late. You just have to get 240 hours between now and August 1st. So it's a little bit harder for those of you that aren't working right now because we're thinking about 20 hours a week. But yeah, so just a reminder for that. We've got Cheyenne, Wesley, Bree, and I'm looking at the YouTube right now. So I'm going to go back to the Zoom and make sure no one's in the waiting room. Okay, no one is. That's great. But yeah, so if it's cool with you, Lindsay, we can go ahead and get started.
Let's do it. Hey, y'all. I hope everyone's having a good week. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. We are talking about debit cards and credit cards tonight to kick off our finance series. We're going to be doing this for the next few weeks up until, let's see, June 8th will be our last finance chat. To help fill in that content though, I don't want to just sit here and pick topics and lecture you each week. So I'd love it if you could just use the chat and let me know what would be most beneficial to you related to budgeting, finance, anything that relates to money, personal like money management. Let me know and we will dedicate a class to address each of your requests and your questions. So please take the time to go and do that. I'll check with you guys at the end when we're done with this one. We're going to start it like pretty simple tonight though with debit and credit cards. You know, some of you may not even have a debit or a credit card yet. And so tonight we're just going to explain the difference between those two. And then also talk about the advantages and disadvantages. So I hope you're using the chat. Let me know what you want to know related to finance. And if you have any questions about debit or credit cards, then we will take the time to address those. And then if you do have a debit or credit card, go ahead and let us know in the chat and let us know if you have which one you have and or maybe you have both. Okay, so really what we're going to cover is what is the difference and is one better than the other? They look the same, they've got the same amount of numbers. Credit cards usually last about up like a 4-year period, 3-year period. So debit cards are tied to your bank account. So we're really going to dig into those differences. So you can think of debit, and this is a pretty universal. Debit means to take away, to draw against something. And that's why there's that negative sign. And credit is a plus. It's your money either way. You're spending money either way. But debit is usually you're drawing money against your bank account. So it's tied to your bank account. And a credit card, you're actually adding to how much you're borrowing and up to like a limit. And there's different types of debit cards. So you have like your classic system, your standard system, and it just draws from a bank account. So you have a bank account, with whatever bank or credit union that you choose, you open an account and they give you a debit card. There's the EBT, where the funds are issued by government agencies to help you with qualifying purchases, so you can find out if you qualify for that. There's the prepaid. So prepaid actually doesn't tie to a bank account, neither does EBT. So this is just a preloaded amount. So if you're worried about, like if you're going to overdraw, if you're worried about if you don't have enough money, or you don't know if you're going to be able to sustain that to open up a bank account, then maybe a prepaid option is best for you to help you budget. And there's usually just like an activation fee with that, but there's not like a monthly or annual fee. And there's not an overdraw fee because you set the limit. So the prepaid is a really good one for budgeting purposes. Credit unions offer debit cards. Credit unions are a little different than banks. And so we're going to talk about what a credit union is here in a little bit. But they usually offer the best rates for loans. So it's usually beneficial to open up a credit or a debit, a savings checking account at a credit union, because they offer really competitive rates if you ever do want to get a loan for like your car, home, personal credit. Most debit cards that are tied to a bank account require a minimum deposit. So you have to bring money to open up an account. It can be as little as $25. $100 is pretty common. But you have to have some minimum amount of cash in order to open up that bank account and get a debit card. The debit card also has no or limited fees. And there might be no fees if you qualify. So you might have to maintain like a certain balance. There's more and more online banking options that have no fees whatsoever. There are some bank debit card options that offer no fees for students. So if you're enrolled in like a certificate program, vocational school, community college as a student, they might waive your fees. And then there's, but the only downside really is that you're not really able to build your credit score. So if you have a lower credit score or you're working on your credit, there's really no benefit of having the debit card to improve your credit score. However, if you become delinquent on your bank account and you overdraw and you leave that for too long, that does negatively impact your credit score. So there's really not like a benefit to your credit score, but there's definitely a downside. Credit cards, like I said, you're just adding your debt. Like every purchase is like you're adding your debt. And it's just like a line of credit. It works just like a loan. So you apply for a credit card based on your credit score, your income, your circumstances. They'll give you a line of credit. And you can spend up to that line of credit. It doesn't have to be within a certain month or a certain time period, but you can go up to that maximum and just keep adding and adding purchases. There is a secured option where you might have to have an initial cash deposit. So especially if you have a lower credit score, don't be surprised if you apply for a credit card and they want a cash deposit as some sort of collateral. There's a lot of benefits to having a credit card. One is fraud protection. So if someone steals your identity, if there's like double purchases, it's much more difficult to resolve like identity issues, fraud, theft, those sorts of things with a debit card. You have much greater protection typically with a credit card. You can also purchase, you can also have disputes with your purchases. So you get your statement and you're like, I don't remember making that to Amazon. They're much more willing to work with you to override those purchases with a credit card. A lot of credit cards come with really nice rewards programs that you can use to get points. You can use those for cash. You can use those for travel points. So airfare, hotels, eating out, electronics, there's all sorts of things. Some of them have other privileges too, like you get discounts at different stores. There are more fees. Some credit cards have no annual fees. Most of them do. Most of them have like a $99, $100 annual fee, kind of like Amazon, right? To get Amazon Prime, you pay an annual fee to get all the benefits. There are over the limit fees. So if you charge over your limit by accident, then you might get a fee for that. You can call and see if they'll make an exception. So that's always an option. If you have a late payment, you'll get a fee, just like with an overdraft. But you can always call and just say, hey, I missed it this month. And usually they'll bring you some leniency. You can actually earn credit with credit cards. So if you pay off your balance each month or pay your minimum payment each month, you're actually improving your credit score. Then just like the debit card, if you miss a payment, if you go delinquent, if you have too many credit cards open, then that will decrease your credit score. If you max out your card, that will decrease your credit score. If you close down an older account, that will decrease your credit score. So really the best thing to do is to have 1 or 2 credit cards and make sure that you're paying them off every month and that you're not maxing them out. If you have to miss a couple months, that's totally fine. At least make the minimum payment. Usually the minimum payment is about $40. Sometimes it's in the $20 range. So it's usually pretty reasonable. Some cautions to consider. Though credit cards have rewards points like we talked about, sometimes they expire. So you might be thinking, I'm saving up for like this trip to Cancun. I'm getting my points. It's been going great. And then you're like, oh, you go to book it and now all your points are expired. So just make sure that you know and understand your rewards program. There's also limited redemption options. So you might be thinking that you're going to redeem your points for something, but it might be within a certain time frame, a certain amount at specific stores. So just like really know your rewards program. Many bank accounts, I mentioned this, they do require a minimum deposit. $25 is not uncommon. $100 also pretty common, just to have like that minimum deposit. They also require to have a minimum or daily average balance. They might require you, for example, to always have $25 in your bank account, or you might get a penalty. They might always require you to have, on average, $25 in your bank account. Maybe you have to zero it out for a month, but your average is still in the $25 range. So just make sure you know what those different requirements are so you're not surprised with any fees. When you open, and this is a hard lesson that I didn't know, and when I was in my 20s, I had opened up some credit cards, and then I went and bought a house, opened up a mortgage, and then we went to go buy a new vehicle. I was like, all these open lines of credit. Well, we went to go open up a line of credit for a new vehicle, and our credit score had dropped a lot. And it's not that we had missed payments or anything, but we had just opened up so many lines of credit in such a short period of time that was like a red flag. So just be aware, like you might want to time it out. So if you're trying to get like rent, right, they're going to like pull your credit. If you're looking for like an apartment or a house, they're probably going to pull your credit. Or if you're looking to get a vehicle and get a loan, they're probably going to pull your credit. So you might want to wait to get a credit card until after that bigger purchase happens or the bigger agreement happens. So if rent is higher on your priority list than a credit card, then definitely open that line of credit first. Okay, so debit purchases typically post immediately. Also a hard lesson for me. So I've been at a gas station before and like the card reader didn't go through. And it was like, and at a gas station, it has like a minimum amount that it pulls against. I can't remember how much. And maybe like $40, $60. Anyway, I had done like a few of those. And then my card got declined. And it wasn't because I didn't have the money in the account. It was because I had so many like false transactions. And then each time it was like adding it up. And I was just like, nope, she doesn't have that money. And I had to wait like another 24 hours to like use my card or get gas just because it had like failed the transaction so many times. So debit cards post transactions immediately, even if they don't go through. And you might have to wait 24 hours or call your bank. And then overdrawn fees, usually like $20 to $25 are for each transaction. So you go to Kroger and you get a Dr. Pepper and that costs you $2. Well, now it's a $25 Dr. Pepper if you've overdrawn. And then you go to the gas station and you put $10 in your tank for gas. Now that's a $35 tank of gas. So for every single transaction that you have overdrawn, you will get a penalty. When this happens to you the first time, I always encourage you to call the bank, call the credit card company, and see if they can work with you. Usually they'll have some leniency. So just keep in mind, every purchase, there's a fee. Credit cards, you have late fees if you pay late, plus the interest of your current balance. So if you have a balance of $100, it's usually like a 20 to 30% interest. 18% is kind of low. So imagine you have $100 from last month of purchases. Now that's $120. And now you have a late fee of 20 something dollars. And so now your $100 purchases is like closer to $150. So just keep in mind, that's why you want to pay them off every month. Now the trick with this, when I was in my early 20s, I had a really bad credit. And I had to work really hard to build up my credit. I was working like 2 or 3 jobs at the time and trying to earn as much as I could. And I was worried that I couldn't open up a credit card. So I finally was able to open a credit card. I didn't have a very big limit. But I only used that credit card to purchase 1 tank of gas every month to get to my job. And I knew, and that's like $40. So I knew that I could commit to paying off $40 every month. And I wouldn't use that credit card for anything else except to buy 1 tank of gas every month. And then the next month I would pay it off. And that's important because I was trying to build up my credit and improve my credit score. And I knew every single time that I paid off my balance and every time that I paid it off on time, my credit card would go up. And I knew that I could do that very quickly because it was just $40. So I would never have to stress about money. Now, if you do have credit cards that are open, sometimes you can consolidate them. And a lot of people think that they need to pay off their debt starting with the biggest debt. If you end up in a place where you have multiple lines of credit, multiple debts, you need to look at what has the highest interest rate. You want to pay that off first because that debt's going to grow. And it's your $100 getting into $150 like that. So look for the highest interest rate, but also look at the one that's the smallest, not the biggest. You pay off your smallest debts first because now your slate's clean, right? That's 1 less debt. You pay off that debt, that's 1 less debt that you have to pay off. Rather, if you start at your biggest debt, it's going to take you longer. And meanwhile, you have all these other debts that are just hanging out. So it's usually best to start with your smallest debts, pay that off, and look at the one with the highest interest rate and consolidate them to a lower interest rate if you can. Okay, and to make dividends, a lot of people think, well, I want to make my money's going to make money and money's the stock market. Stock market is good if you understand the stock market, but your money can make money for you outside of the stock market. Some credit unions will pay you to keep money in your checking account or your savings account in the form of interest. So they will earn money just by you not spending it, which is awesome. Sometimes it's a couple percent, 5%, just kind of depends. Credit unions are really good about this. Other qualifying accounts, interest-bearing savings accounts, dividend check accounts, CDs, also a great option. CDs actually earn more money. They make more money than your savings account, but you have to lock up your money for a certain period of time, which means you can't touch it for like a year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever is required. Money market accounts also make more money than savings account, not a lot, but you also have more access to pull from that money. So you have money market accounts, you have more access to your money. CDs make more money, but you can't touch it for a longer period of time. Recently, we've seen more online banking options. And the great thing about this is they usually have free checking. And the reason why they can do free checking is because there's no physical building bank to pay for. There's less people, there's less building. You don't have to pay for all that, right? There's no utilities lights to turn on, so they can give free checking. 2 great options for you. US Bank offers free online banking, plus they'll give you a debit card, plus you can do automatic bill pay if you want, and it's free, and they also waive their fees for their checking account. So it's a really great option. It's completely online. Chase, they will consider waiving your fee, so it is free if there's $500 of direct deposits going to your account each month, so your pay stub, or you have a $1,500 beginning balance, or if your average day balance from day to day is $5,000. So probably the $500 option is going to be great for someone in their 20s that's just starting out. If you can prove that you've got your employer giving you $500 a month going to your account, then you probably qualify for a free checking account, which means that you're going to save about $60 a year, because in this case, they charge you $12 a month for having the account, but they will waive that fee if you've got $500 or more coming into your account every month. And it also requires $25 to open this account. Credit unions, those are actually not banks. Credit unions are not-for-profit organizations that are member-owned. So everyone that has an account technically owns a share of the credit union. You will qualify for a credit union that I'm part of, AFCU, Arkansas Credit Union, because you live in Arkansas. You can become a member of Arkansas Federal Credit Union, AFCU, if you live in Arkansas, or if you have a family member that is already a member of AFCU. You do have to have, excuse me, $100 to open an account. Excuse me a second. I got choked up. Okay, so you have to have $100, $500 minimum balance to avoid a $10 monthly fee. You do get rewards for this. So every $2 you spend, you get 1 point, and you can redeem that for travel, electronics, and other purchases. Just an option to consider. You can do a joint account. This is a good option if you don't have a good line of credit and you're worried about getting approved. Maybe there's someone that you trust, that trusts you. You can have a joint account. But all the account holders have to be present and signed when you open up your account. So to get started, you need an ID, your social, address, deposit, $25, excuse me, and a consent for a soft credit check. Sometimes they'll pull your credit when you open up a checking account. It doesn't hit your credit. They just want to look at your financial history. And it doesn't mean if you have a bad financial history, you won't get approved. They're just trying to gauge, how much risk they're going to take for you as an account holder. Not all of them do this. So you might want to go ahead and ask, just so you're aware of who's pulling your credit score. Here's some resources for you. So we're going to be focusing on finance. And again, If you have any finance questions or finance topics, please leave those in the chat so that we can address those. We're going to spend a few weeks just talking about personal finance, budget, money management. So I definitely want to hear from you. So this is your time. Excuse me, and I want to make sure that we're using your time wisely. Oh, excuse me. So these are some resources. So there's NerdWallet. It's a website. They give you free money advice. Investopedia, you can use this for like definitions, terms. If you don't know what something means, like debit or credit, they'll give you a definition and an example. And then the Points Guy, Casey, who's looking at opening up a credit card. I went to the Points Guy website when I first started with a credit card to pick out which rewards credit card that I wanted to use based on the benefits. So if you're looking at getting a credit card for the first time, I recommend that you start with the Points Guy to look at your different options and compare them. Okay, I made it. I was choking up at the end, so I'm sorry about that, but we made it through. We're going to check in with the chat and see what questions you guys have.
Yes, awesome. Lindsay, don't worry about it. The first like big presentation I ever gave, like at a statewide conference in front of hundreds of people, I had practiced giving that speech so many times, and wouldn't you know, when I got up there, I choked for like 20 minutes of my 40-minute segment. It was terrible, and I could not get a grip, and I had water. It was awful. So at least it wasn't as bad as that, you know what I'm saying? But it happens. But yeah, we've got some great stuff going on in the chat. I initially asked if anyone had a debit card, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people that have a debit card. So very, very relevant for the 8 people or the 6 people that are joining in with us tonight. Funny enough, I actually talked to one of my youth today. He said he wanted to start a bank account. And Immerse has a partnership with Regions to where you can get a student debit account, even if you're not technically going to school. When they say student, they mean like student of finance, like you're learning about finance kind of for the first time. And if you're kind of like younger, then you qualify for a student account, which just means there are no really any hidden fees and that they're kind of easy to maintain. And that requires a $50 deposit. So yes, if there's anyone that's watching with us that wants to get a bank account, you can reach out to me or your coach. And I've got a woman at Regions who is very eager and really awesome and is ready to help you guys get started with that. But as Lindsay has said, it is also great if you guys want to look around on websites and kind of decide which bank you want to go with. There might be different reasons you would pick a different bank. Of course, that's totally fine. Immerse will give you assistance with any bank account you want to set up. We just like to go through Regions because we know them and they're nice people. And we know that they're not going to, slide in those hidden fees like some places will, unfortunately. So yeah, but we got a lot of people with debit cards, and I'm not seeing any questions as of right now. But just want to open it up again. Anyone have any questions about debit or credit?
And did we have any suggestions for future finance topics? Were there any requests?
Oh, let's address that for sure. So as you guys know, we started out this class this evening telling you guys that we are going to be talking about money and finance and basically how to be a grown adult with your money. So very, very important topic for us all. I feel like I say that all the time, but that's the point of life skills, is relevant topics for us all, right? But I want to know, me and Lindsay both want to know what topics you guys would like to hear about. Maybe you have no idea what taxes are and you want to file for taxes and get that stimulus check, but you don't know how. Or maybe you're aware that your credit score might not be great, or maybe you're aware that you're in a little bit of debt and you want to find out about how to manage that. There could be all sorts of things we could talk about, guys. So would love it if everyone tuning in just type one thing about money that you would like to learn about. Anything regarding money, anything about dealing with your finances. Could be budgeting, could be saving and spending. That's pretty much what budgeting is. But I would love if everyone I see 6 of you guys. If everyone could put in one topic that they would like to learn about finance, about money, put it in the chat because I want to know. And I'll give you guys just a few minutes to do that. Go ahead, Lindsay.
And if anyone has any updates on their SMART goals, I know that we had some people that were working towards achieving their SMART goals at the end of April. So now is really our first opportunity to talk about that. So if you have an update on your SMART goals, please share. We would love to hear.
All right, I took a moment to utilize the chat. So from Sierra, we are hearing learning about debt and what happens if you don't pay it. That is a very important topic. Because debt is one of those things that you might not know it's happening. And then when it gets really bad, you might not know until the last second, and it can cause quite a bit of damage. That's in the worst case scenario. So it's important to know. Important to know about that for sure. Wesley says his SMART goal, he achieved it before the end of the month. So nicely done, Wesley.
Great job, Wesley.
I believe we'd had an incentive for that. So
yes.
And then another person about debt. It's a good thing to learn about.
Okay,
oh, go ahead, Lindsay.
So going back to Wesley, Wesley said that he was going to get his paperwork, his work history in for the end of the month for his housing situation. So if there's a way, Wesley, that you can work with your coach just to document that or show that, unless he or she already knows, and then let us know where you want your $100 gift card so we can make sure that is in your hands. And also, congratulations, that's awesome.
Yes, I am Wesley's coach, so he and I can work on that. That'll be great, Wesley. We can hopefully get to that next week. I apologize, and the people working with me know I was out on vacation for several days over the past few months, and I've had like short weeks, and I've gotten kind of behind. So kind of working on catching up there, but Wesley, I hadn't forgotten about you, and we can definitely get to that next week. But yeah, Regina says, yes, she has that with Simmons Bank. And then she says credit. So I'm trying to remember, again, the chat's kind of delayed, so I think we might've missed something. I don't know. Oh, I think Regina wants to learn about credit, maybe. Maybe that's what she's saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, Regina. Also, you guys might hear some cooking going on in the background. It's Ashley, for those of y'all that know her. So send her a text about how she's the worst. No, I'm just kidding. She's making dinner. It's all good. This is what happens when you live with roommates, and it's amazing. But my, what was I going to say? I love living with roommates because all of my expenses are cut in thirds, and I have money to budget and be able to pay the bills. So I'm trying to relate what's happening with financial literacy. So I'm trying, but that is good. Okay. Regina has a question. What company would be good for opening a credit account for someone who has no credit? It's a good question. Do you have to have credit to open up a credit account? I'm not sure you do.
You don't. But some require like a limited credit score. So when I had really bad credit, I opened up a Capital One card. And like I said, it was like a super low balance because I had like no/bad credit. And I only put, like I said, my tank of gas on there each month before I was able to get a Chase card. So Chase is a really awesome rewards program. And they're just like a really awesome bank that I've stuck with for about 10 years now. So when I was first starting out and I was like in a really bad spot, I started with Capital One. I don't know what their rates are compared now, but usually just bear in mind, if you have low slash no credit, banks, to kind of like hedge their risk, they're going to give you a higher interest rate and a lower limit. So, you know, we can do Bank of America, Chase, Capital One. There's a ton of options out there for a credit card. Just keep that in mind, is that your interest rate is probably going to be much higher, even higher than 18, 19%, which is really stinking high. And you're not going to get like a really low limit, like maybe $500. So just don't be shocked, you know, if it comes back that way.
Yes, and so Lindsay had addressed this already, but as a reminder, like bad credit just means like a lower score, and then good credit is like higher up. So sometimes, Lindsay, is it true or false that if you have low credit, some banks are able to say, no, you can't open an account with us? Is that a thing? Or are they?
Yeah, it's really your financial history. So if you have like a really low score, and if they can see that you've opened other accounts in other banks and have gone delinquent and overdrawn on them, then they can see that, and they're not going to allow you to open up an account until you've resolved those overdrafts or those delinquencies. So that is a thing. You might not be able to open up a checking / savings account, and you might not be able to get a credit card if you have delinquencies, especially, but also if your credit score is too low.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I definitely think that answers the question. But again, you guys, if you have other questions that wasn't nail on the head, let us know. I've got a question for my curiosity. And I'm going to explain what I think I know. And then Lindsay, I'm going to invite you to kind of correct where I might have it wrong. So co-signers, like if you make a big purchase, like a car or a home or like a boat, you're able to do that even if your credit is low, but you have someone sign, that's the co-signer, that has good / high credit. Is that what co-signers are?
Yeah, so it's not always. Their credit score also has to be really good. So that happened to me too. I was in school and I had really bad credit, and so my grandparents were actually able to co-sign on a car, and it was like a $4,000, you know, vehicle, and I couldn't get approved for it. And so my grandparents, who had really great credit, like, you know, 800 plus, they were able to co-sign with me. But if you can't just have like two bad credit scores combined and then get approved. And there's also certain like thresholds too. So your credit score, even if that person's credit is super, super great, if you have like I said, a lot of delinquent accounts, you might still get rejected. But yeah, I mean, if you're just getting started out, and like kind of how I was, where I needed a vehicle, $4,000 loan to get this vehicle for my job, then there might be an opportunity for someone else to co-sign so you can get approved for that. They are on the hook, which means they have to trust you, which means if you miss a payment, they will make those payments. They're responsible, just as responsible as you.
They're kind of like your backup a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're collateral. But their credit score has to be so high, and kind of your conditions have to be a certain way. So it's not a guarantee that you have a co-signer, you're going to get approved.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was curious. We got a question from Regina. What company would be good to start a credit account? So I'll kind of touch back on what Lindsay had said, and that it's really up to you. You get to pick. You can go online or in person to different companies and kind of see what works for you and what benefits you like. I mean, just an idea based off of the research I've done, I really like Discover. There's someone I am going to probably lean in heavily towards when the time comes for me. But do you have any other ideas, Lindsay, of some good companies to start a credit account with?
I totally recommend that you go to thepointsguy.com, go to the Points Guy website, and they do like when I first was opening, like, my big kind of credit card after this Capital One bad credit experience, I was like, okay, I've got decent credit. What do I do? And so I went to the Points Guy, and they do such an awesome job of just like breaking down each credit card option and kind of like the advantages and disadvantages of each. So if you want kind of like a more comprehensive, like global perspective, that's a really good resource.
And what was that website? I wanted to put it in the chat, the link.
It might just be like the pointsky.com.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
I'm checking.
Sure.
I also have an app. Yeah, it's the pointsky.com.
And help me pick. Okay, cool. Cool. That's in the chat. I just told them Google the points guy. It's probably the first thing that comes up. So cool. All righty. Well, I don't see any more questions. And it is 5:41. So it is as good of a time as any to wrap it up. Although, Lindsay, any final thoughts?
No, I really appreciate your feedback. It sounds like we want a course on what happens if you don't pay debt, and maybe like a deeper dive on credit. So those will be coming up. We'll probably sneak in some budgeting, personal budgeting tips.
Yes, I love budgeting, mainly because one of the first life skills, aka Live at 5 now, I ever did was on budgeting, and I did a really fun game where everyone got a bunch of M&Ms and a sheet of paper, and you had to move around your M&Ms to go towards different things. I just love it. I kind of nerd out over that game. So maybe when we're in person again, we can play the M&M budgeting game. It's super fun. I love it. And I'm not even like a finance nerd. I just think the game is so fun because you get to eat M&Ms after, and you get to pick. Yeah, you get to see in front of your eyes like how your choices impact other parts of your life. I just think it's great. Anyways, so that is enough from me for sure. So I will go ahead and close us out. Lindsay, thank you so much as always. To those of you who attended, love y'all. And I hope that I see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.